Hey now, and it is a special day. It is Saturday, so it's the weekend. And in the UK, we have a thing called a bank holiday, which is when anyone who works in a bank is actually allowed a day off, and that is Monday. So it's a special day where people can just have a day off work. And there's only a few of them a year. And let's ignore the rest of the days at the bank people have off. They're irrelevant, but for some reason they need a special Monday. Apart from that, is anything else significant this weekend? I believe there might be an aging old fool who's got a birthday. And here's the sap, and he is 76. And I would try and use a funny antidote like a triple fingering, but to be honest, at the age of 76, it would probably be more like a gaping fisting. So, and it's probably not that fair to make fun of his age like that. So, all in all, I hope he has a lovely day. No, because by the time will have gone out, he'd have had his day. So, like, I can't hope he has a good day because that's happened. That doesn't make any sense. And actually, sort of halfway through my day, but because of the time zone, you're sort of only just sort of a little bit starting your day. So this is more confusing than ever now. I hope you had a good day, but you haven't actually had that day yet. So I don't know what to say.
Hey now, welcome to the Dirty Side of the Track, America's leading Formula One podcast. I'm Brian, that's Rob. You are a Dirty Sider. Thanks for joining us. The Dutch Grand Prix was about 10 minutes ago. Man, it was better than I anticipated. Question. How are you, Rob?
I'm good, and let's put a pin in that until we get to the end, because I can't quite make up my mind if it was just cars back on track instantly meant it was going to feel better than it was, whether or not it felt like it was in the middle of a lull, then suddenly it wasn't. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Whatever. There is loads to talk about, which to me always makes it feel like it must have been a good race because there's loads to talk about. So
exactly.
I guess we'll see when we get there. By the way, just you're going to have to listen to this episode back again, because what you won't have heard, because I don't have rights to play sounds, is you won't have heard the little birthday message from Paul that I'm going to edit on at the beginning of this episode before it plays. Because it was the Sapman's birthday last week, so happy birthday, Sapman.
Thank you very much.
While I was traveling across the country, I dropped him a message and asked if he'd drop you a birthday wish, and he did, and then I was still traveling and I never got to edit it on. So 1 week belated. There was a little happy birthday from Paul there, and you're going to listen back to this episode now, and then wish you could have started the episode by reacting to it. But there we go. That's one of those weird Pitlane Paul time travel things.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's nice to be 38 again.
Oh, man. So, right. Whether you are a new Dirty Sider or a veteran Dirty Sider, episode running order, as always, news and social, of which there weren't many stories, but one of them might get a little bit more airtime than the others.
A little bit more.
We have the video vault, and then we get to review a race finally for what feels like 3,000 years, and also preview one. And also do casino game previews, because we forgot. We've had 3 million years of summer break, and yet we managed to forget doing our casino game picks for Zandvoort because we're rubbish.
We are professional podcasters.
So,
I've got the sound ready. You want to talk about the first story?
Yeah, I mean, apparently at some point this week, Cadillac dropped some news.
This is Valtteri Bottas, and you're listening to the Dirty Side of the Track.
But do you know who else was involved in it?
Sergio Checo Perez!
I'm excited to bust that sound back out again.
I know. So, what I liked about this is that as they are a truly American constructor, they didn't pander to the Europeans and make their announcement in the morning, European time. No, sirree, Bob. They did it 8 a.m. or whatever it was on Good Morning America, which was obviously middle of the day for Europe. And we had Valtteri and Checo on morning breakfast television in the States. It was just, did you get to see it at all?
I saw the rerun. I didn't see it live, but I did see it on YouTube not long after they did it. It was great. It was just so great. It was great to have them back on the grid. It was great to see them interacting. And, I mean, from the outside, from a fan's perspective, obviously we've talked to Valtteri. I mean, we know him so very well. But besides that, these are two guys that are like also fan favorites, right? I mean, there's very few people who don't like Valtteri or don't like Checo. They may not all be fans, but there's very few people who have a negative feeling to either of them. So it's like a feel-good team to some extent.
Yeah, and what I saw come out off the back of this news was, sometimes how difference of opinions can cause toxicity online. Mm-hmm. This one, from what I saw, and maybe I only saw a little small snippet of it, but it was almost like new fans being brought in from America by the Cadillac news, kind of rocking up with this kind of like, hey, hang on, I thought they were going to do a young American driver alongside one of these guys, and they were kind of getting a little angry, but like kind of community kind of morphed around them and went, hang on, this makes perfect sense. If you one day want an American maybe winning races in a Cadillac, first you got to get the car ready.
Right.
And there's no better way of getting it ready than putting two experienced race winners in the car that can give all the feedback needed to steer the ship in the right direction. And then who knows, 2027, maybe only one of them survives because the car's ready and they bring in a young American, or maybe it's 2028. But
yeah, because I think they're multi-year deals.
Yeah, but we've all seen how deals work. Just
true.
Jack Doohan wants a word. But
my 5-race deal.
So you got that aspect. You got the aspect of it's a good pairing from a pure sporting perspective. But from a marketing perspective, it's genius as well. Because like you say, both of these guys are loved. Valtteri comes with his own brand of Valtteri Explains or long-arm track cycling videos. I mean, he's just a ready-made marketing machine by himself. And Checo's no kind of stranger to that as well. And he's got a lot of backing. So this felt like a really good feel-good announcement all round for me.
Agreed. And I hear you. And I do hear, I did see what about the young American on the team, or maybe even not a young American, but someone else a little earlier in their career. But why? Like you're building a car for the very first time, and the feedback that experienced drivers can give you, I think, is invaluable. Also, quite frankly, if you're ever hanging around, the middle of the pack and you have a shot at points, you ain't getting it with the rookie in a rookie car on a rookie team. You're getting it with one of these guys. So it would be nice to grab some points along the way as well. And I think Cadillac sees that and they say, you know what? This made a lot of sense. I'm so excited about it. It is amazing. I already offered Paul a note that I am only about 4 hours away from the Cadillac HQ, and I'd be happy to pop down to talk.
This is Valtteri Bottas,
with Valtteri,
and you're listening to the dirty side of the track.
Take him out for a beer or
and meet Checo, of course. We'll talk to Checo. We are America's leading Formula 1 podcast, therefore we should really be with,
North America's leading Formula 1
America's
podcast.
Leading constructor, because you and I exchanged notes on this.
Yes, we did.
You said I bet Haas are feeling upset about this because everyone's going on about them being the first American constructor on the grid. And my view on this is I agree with what those folk were saying, because I don't see Haas as an American constructor. I see Haas as an American-owned team. And what I mean by that is they came in and they bought an infrastructure that was already in place, and they set up all operations in the UK, and the rest of, I think, the design work is basically they set up a factory outside Maranello because they buy as much of Ferrari as they can.
Right, totally.
They're essentially a Ferrari customer team, which then adds all of their own Haas element to it in England. So I think there's just some rich people that own it sitting over.
They do have people,
America,
I think, in North Carolina working on things.
I think it's just office work. I don't think there's anything that happens from an F1 perspective. So, and I could be wrong, and I'm happy for people to correct me on this, but it feels like in the same way that my beloved Arsenal Premier League team are not an American team, they're just owned by an American, the same guy that owns the St. Louis Rams. So they're American owned, but they're definitely an English team. So
who owns the San Luis Rams?
I believe so. Yeah,
so much wrong with that.
He owns loads of clubs.
I'm gonna let that slide because there's no Rams in San Luis, but we can just keep moving.
Whatever.
St. Louis.
Oh, whatever. So this is going to be a true American team, right? They're going to build power.
They would say St. Louis, and they would know the Rams are in Los Angeles.
Well, whatever. He owns them. And that's got nothing to do with it. Come on. What's your view? Haas, American team or not?
So I struggle with this because I was the one who sent you the note. Haas would like a word. But yeah, you're right. I do agree. And we know Cadillac has European operations as well, things near Silverstone and all.
Every Formula One
you
team
have to,
right?
Yeah. But it is an American team. They're going to manufacture the car here in the good old U.S. of A. I'm sure it'll say made in China somewhere on the parts because that's how we do it in America, but that's okay. But yeah. I get it. I just think Gene Haas is on the phone and he'd like to make a comment about.
Well, he has to be on the phone because everybody's in Europe. Anyway,
Gene is on the phone.
Moving on, and this is like scratching. That was the news of this week. Basically. Almost nothing else happened this week. So, MasterCard will become the first naming partner of McLaren since 2013, when Vodafone were naming. This one passed me by. I guess I've never realised that McLaren haven't had a naming partner. Everyone else does, and we just ignore it because we call Aston Martin Aston Martin. We don't care who their naming partner is. We call Red Bull Red Bull. We don't worry about Oracle in there. But I was like, yeah, I guess I've never really noticed. I guess, therefore, I've never really cared.
I mean, it just means more money, and, good for them. Do you think Zach negotiated this and got a cut of it? Because didn't he used to do that? He brought the sponsors to the teams and got cuts of everything. That was like one of his businesses.
I'm not sure. Not sure.
Well, we'll
anyway, last news story of the week. It wasn't really news, and I actually haven't been able to find that he said it again, but the way some of the outlets are jumping on it, I guess he has. So Jacques Villeneuve made a big view back in 2003, which is like 22 years ago, which I guess he must have repeated on Sky Sports this weekend because everybody was jumping all over it, which is that he thinks racing would improve if you got rid of mirrors off the cars. Because he said from his experience, you can't see anything in those. The only thing, it's nothing to do with safety, because for safety, if a faster car is approaching in a race, that's what blue flags are for. You know you need to get out of the way and get off the racing line. If it's somebody approaching in quali or practice and you're on a cool down and they're going fast, you can't react in time to see them coming.
Or the radio lets you know.
You're hoping for the engineer to tell you.
Exactly.
And good driving practice should mean you should already be off the racing line in those situations. So he's like, it's not for safety. MotoGP don't use mirrors. I think American oval cars don't use mirrors. He's like, you don't need them for safety. He said the only thing you can use a mirror for is moving under braking or looking to block someone when they're overtaking you. So if you got rid of mirrors, a good driver that knows how to defend will carry on knowing how to defend the racing line when he senses a car is getting close. But what he won't be able to do is second guess if the driver behind has taken some funky line to try and put an overtake on you, they won't be able to do anything against it. So if you want better racing and you want more overtakes, get rid of mirrors because you won't sacrifice anything from a safety perspective. I don't see anything wrong with that, but the hate he got for this, that's a ridiculous idea, mirrors are essential. I'm like, but we listen every week them talk about these tiny little postage stamps of glass, and it's like, what can they even see out of these things?
I mean, I think we may have to ask a driver how often they're actually used in today's F1, because I was in the camp of, really? Like, I mean, I get the argument, but I'm willing to bet people actually do use them when they're defending lines. Which side are they going to, left or right? And they're looking at both mirrors, and as soon as they see a flash of green or papaya or red in their scarlet in one side mirror, they move that way. And so I still think
exactly
there's
his point.
I think
no, exactly
I know I
his
get
point.
it, but I
So,
still
yeah.
think they want to use it for that. So that would be my argument, is I still think they want to defend the car's move behind them.
The car in front is 100% going to want their mirrors,
Yeah.
right?
That's
But
why
his
I'm saying
point
don't
was,
take
if you
them
want
away.
to see more, if you want to see more, so if you want to see less overtakes, keep them.
If you enjoy defense,
Exactly. But I didn't think it was that crazy a suggestion. Would I want to see it? I mean, to me, there's different things we have to solve first about the number of overtakes. This would probably be the last thing I would worry about. But I could see his point. I just couldn't understand the amount of hate he got for it.
Could you imagine now that, about was it a year ago when Williams got rid of their Wish.com steering wheels, where they moved to ones with actual, video on the wheel? Could we get the rear camera and project that into a little corner of the wheel, just a little corner, so they could see behind them a little better? I don't know. Question.
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of video and use of video, let's talk about the video vault this week. There was some action. Some action in the vault. I'm excited because there was some action in the vault. First, a recommendation from Fantasy Hub Rob. Rob, thanks for sending this in, man. It's always great talking with you. I'd seen this come across my feed, had not watched it yet. F1 driver goes undercover in amateur kart race on the Quadrant channel, which is Lando's team and effort. 15 minutes. I saw it come through. They have a picture of a guy who I thought was the actual guy. And I'm like, what kind of old-timey F1 driver I've never heard of did they find to go undercover? I thought it was an older F1 driver from 20, 30, 40 years ago who ran one race, who I'd never heard of, didn't know his face, and I'm like, I moved on. Rob, Fantasy Hub Rob, sends his note and says you got to check it out. So I do. It wasn't some old-timey guy I didn't know. It was Ollie Behrman in facial makeup. He had a whole thing applied to his cheeks and chin and throat and neck, and he had painted all. I mean, I didn't even know it was him. It was great. So if you want to watch something, I won't tell you what happens. Check it out. But Gerald has game. The finale, the badly described races challenge, Grill the Grid 2025, F1 Channel 15 minutes. This is the conclusion to the mid-season break 4-week Grill the Grid episode. I like this. I'm not going to tell you who wins because I don't want to spoil the championship for Grill the Grid. I kind of like this one. I didn't get it at first because I'm dumb. But after they got to the second race where they were describing it, and I realized, there's descending amounts of points based on if you get the first clue and yada, yada. I loved it. I was all tuned in. I was playing along at home. I'm like, what race would that be? What race would that be? And so I really enjoyed it. Did you see this one yet, Rob?
No, I got this one to watch, but I'm terrible on historical races. I don't do well on this type of
They're
thing,
not
so
as old as you think. There's some oldies, but there's a few oldies, but there's some more recent ones that you should be able to figure out from this. I loved it. And then, of course, we already mentioned it. New Cadillac F1 team drivers revealed on Good Morning America. Here is the YouTube that I watched. 4 minutes. Of course, it was great. And we've already told you about Checo and Valtteri. And then finally, behind the scenes with Lando Norris, McLaren Racing, Google Pixel 10, and more on the Giannis Antetokounmpo channel. 8 minutes. This was so weird to me. This was just like, all right, so I, as an NBA fan in the Midwest, Giannis is a big deal. I'm not in Milwaukee, but he's done amazing things an hour away from where I live. And the Bucks, appreciate what he's done. He's now open to a trade, apparently. He's a generational talent. He's an interesting guy. He's got a great story. This was the most boring YouTube thing I've ever seen of his. I don't understand. It was horrible. Giannis, good. Lando, good. Combined video, bad. And so, I mean, if people want to go take 8 minutes, watch it and tell me if you agree or disagree or if I was expecting too much. It was just two famous athletes who knew nothing about each other. Oh, yeah. Okay. That was it, Rob. Anything from the videos for you?
No, let's lock up the vault and get on with the race. Okay, given the time zone, I really saw the sum total of 0 practice live. I dipped into the highlights on the F1 channel, but I kind of read what was going on. So I wasn't going to really put much here, but we do have a first-time new feature. I don't know if we have a siren alert for this, because I don't remember us ever doing this before, and I don't remember it being a thing. But let's get there. Let's get there in time. So first off, FP1, McLaren ridiculously quick. Aston Martin looking ridiculously quick. It's like, what are they doing up there?
I was very confused. I saw a little tiny bit of FP2 on my computer on the side here during the workday. I saw maybe 20 minutes. And I saw a bunch of crashes. And I saw the 3-minute F1 package for FP1. And I'm like, what? Aston Martin? What? Was this for real? And then Alonso looked fast in FP2 and Stroll crashed.
You can't jump ahead to FP2.
We'll come back to FP1, but I'm just saying.
We got a big feature.
This was the beginning of me believing in Aston Martin, which I'll talk more about as we go.
Okay. So I've never seen a news conference between the FP1 and 2. I assume maybe they always happen and they have got 0 content in them that they never make it to us. But here we are with our first time feature, news conference between FP1 and FP2. Dun, dun, dun. And it really wasn't that big a deal. I think the reason it made the headlines was that Flavio Briatore came out and was being asked about Colapinto's future at the team. And here we are, between sessions, and he says, when they asked what he needed to see from Colapinto for him to retain his seat, he said, I see everything already. I don't need to see anything more. It's difficult for this driver. It's very difficult to cope with this car. These cars are very, very heavy, very quick. And for a young driver to be put in Formula One, maybe it was not the timing to have Franco in Formula One. Maybe he needs another year or two before being part of Formula One. Wow.
Whoa.
I mean, that is something to say between practice sessions, right?
That is, wow.
I mean, if you're Franco, you got to get back in the car for FP2 and go, well, Guess it doesn't really matter what I do this weekend then.
Wow. I don't even know what we would use for that sound effect. I mean, we've got the old this guy on standby, but that's overused. I'm assuming Franco's answer was something like this.
I don't know. But then, FP2 came along. The only real headline from that was that as you were starting to have faith in Stroll, he completely crashed the car
and
into
Alonso,
a million
Aston
pieces.
Martin proper. Don't just give me Lance. You got to give me a Fernando as well. Come on.
So Stroll smashes his car into a million pieces. FP3, McLaren then just decide to show everybody how quick they are. And it really just became which one of these two is going to get pole, and then what's the best of the rest going to look like. Hashtag Aston Martin didn't show up in FP3.
Well, and I didn't know that. So this is the one problem with like the timing of things Central Time for F1. This is the one singular problem is fantasy, because I have to be awake before Qualy starts and have enough time to know what happened in FP3 and enough time to play with my team and think about what I want to do. Do I want to go budget? Do I want to go, long-term, short-term, this race, future? And I got to have enough mental fortitude early on a Saturday morning to pull that all together, which often means I just put my team in Friday night, which is what I did after FP2. And that was my point. Aston Martin looked frisky. And so there were smart people on the internet. There aren't many of them out there, but there are some, and I found them, and they talk about fantasy. And I did something so dumb. It reminds me of reclining under a tree in Canada when I went triple McLaren, and it did not work. Well, I did it again. I went triple McLaren, but not only that, hold my beer, I went triple Aston. And so I know Rob's making a face right now. Now, it might have worked out because both cars were in the points at the end. Yeah. It was a horrible decision. Yeah, it was a horrible decision up until with 20 laps left when Fernando boxed for his 57th set of tires and came out last.
Shh, you'll ruin it.
And I'm looking at the race. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be the worst decision ever. But you know who I got rid of for Aston? Ferrari. How many of those drivers even finished? So I'm like, this might have worked out for me.
True enough. So anyway, we head to qualifying, and after a night breaking curfew and slaving away until the early hours to get Lance's car ready for action, the engineers finally made it. That green machine rolled out of the pit lane, and they all looked around at each other and went, guys, I am absolutely knackered, but we did it. We pulled it out the fire. We've given Lance the car. Come on, this car's quick this weekend. Let's see if we can go make Q3. Hang on a minute. Hold on. There's been an incident in the first run.
Do you think some of them in the garage were like, hey, you know what? I'm going to grab a soda, a coffee. I'm going to get a tea and get some water. We're tired. We had to work all night up until 1 a.m, get the car out there. Time for he's off again? What happened?
Just poor old Lance Stroll just bins it on his first run, doesn't even get a lap time in. He was on his warm-up lap, I think, or he might have been on the first corner of his hot run, but whatever. He doesn't set a time. And he's out. And he knows it. They go back and they're trying to see it. And he's in the car. And I think the radio message is like, I'm done, right? And they were like, no, just stay in there for a bit. Don't get out of the car. We're going to see if we can get some stuff done for you.
Then they take the front apart. Like, no. Do you think they get invested? Do you think mechanics get invested in the car? Like, they work so hard to get that thing put back together. And there's a sense of pride of the work they do. Do you think they get invested in it like a Richard Hammond would? Where, like, when his car was sinking, when they look at Lance go off right away. Oliver! Is that like they're like, no!
Maybe. So Stroll meant that really there were only going to be 4 drivers at risk because the 5th was already a banker. And we saw Colapinto, Hulkenberg, Ocon, and Behrman go out in Q1.
I got a question, and it's been brewing for about 3 or 4 races now. What happened to Hulkenberg's qualifying? What happened? He for a couple of years now, he's kind of taken on some of that Mr. Saturday mantra, put the car up higher than it should be, and then you watch him, fall backwards in the Haas, and then now the Sauber, just fall backwards a bit because the car's not that good, but he did something good on Saturday. Now, not only is he not doing that, his rookie teammate who's come alive is outpacing him significantly on Saturdays. And I'm very confused with the Nico Hulkenberg we're seeing on Saturdays.
We'd have to do some analysis, but has it all fallen away since he got his podium? Is he kind of like... Like, just
I actually feel it's a
done now.
little
I mean-
before that, but yeah,
Okay.
it's somewhere around there. He's smoking a stogie on Saturday. He's got his legs out the cockpit. He's just getting some
It's
sun
like,
on his dogs
If this,
as he
if
goes
this
around.
all ends today, I got a podium. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, Q2 came along, and it was the usual suspects, I kind of think, although Albon got a little bit screwed because the Williams looked pretty quick this weekend at various parts. So we had Antonelli, Yuki, Bortoletto, Gasman, and Albon came crashing out in Q2, which left us with Q3. Had us obviously both McLarens. We had Max in there. We had George, and we had both Ferraris, and we had both Racing Bulls. We had Hadjar and Lawson, leaving Sainz and Alonso to scoop up the rest of the top 10. And really, it was going to be who was going to get pole. That's all out of the two McLarens. I don't think anybody else was in the same zip code as them, to be honest. It never felt under threat. Even though the commentary team wanted to keep bigging up Max being at his home race, I felt he sacrificed quality performance for race day pace because I felt... You and I traded notes on this, and I said I was a little underwhelmed by Max in Quali because he was never really going to be anything but third. It never looked like he was under pressure from anybody behind him. It never looked like he'd catch anybody ahead. So it was just like he got his slippers out and just coasted into third spot. But that could have been, as we'll talk in a minute, about needing to... That Red Bull isn't as dominant. It's still a fast car, but it's never going to catch the McLarens at the moment. And why sacrifice getting pole by putting everything on that car if you possibly could get pole, but then get gobbled up by lap 2? What's the point, right? So maybe...
I thought he did a better job than you did. I think that car is not good. And the fact that he was that far ahead of the person behind him who ended up being Isaac, he was as close to McLaren as Isaac was to Max. So, like,
which is where that car is, right? It's the best
Look,
of the rest
Yuki
of the moment,
didn't even
that
make
car.
it again. Yuki was
but
out.
but we know that we know that nobody seems to know how to tame that car other than Max, right? So let's give Max his kudos that he can tame it. But because he can tame it, it's not a tractor that he's magically making go faster. It's a fast car. You just have to have skill to be able to tame it, which is what Max is doing.
I think I disagree a little bit.
So you believe that Max Verstappen can break the laws of physics, and
Yes.
if that car has got a top speed of 200 miles an hour, he can make it go 220?
That's correct.
Let's move on.
So it was a McLaren battle. We both agreed for that pole position. And as we watched it unfold, it was kind of prescient when we had Karun saying, hey, the banker laps sometimes matter. And so the first run, we see McLarens just go fast. We see Lando and Oscar just both re-break the track record, which Lando had broken in Q2. And Oscar takes the provisional pole. But we're all kind of like, well, they got one more run in them. They'll put a new set of softs on. The track's evolving. You know, this is Oscar's got it by a 12 milliseconds or whatever for now. But Lando will fight back, and Oscar will improve, and we'll see what happens. And nothing mattered after that because they both went slower. And so it was all done after the first set of hot laps. And so would you call that a banker? No, I would call those some damn good laps they put in, and then they just couldn't improve, whether the wind got stronger.
Yeah, agree.
Whatever it was a little bit of a letdown. I always love when they come to the line at the end of Q3 and there's movement at the top or the whole board. No, it was basically done, and that's fine. It was still exciting. We just had to get the excitement early.
Yeah, and what it showed for me is... Oscar Piastri seems, and this is totally me superimposing a whole set of assumptions here that I have nothing to back up, but Lando has dominated from the moment they turn the engines on in FP1 all the way up to Q3. I have to go and double check this. I'm not sure if
Up
Piastri
to
led.
Q3, yeah.
I think Q1 and Q2 Lando was quicker than Oscar, right?
I believe so.
I think so. So I think across 5 sessions, FP1, 2, 3, Q1 and Q2, Lando has got the measure. And Oscar just seemed to be taking all of this in his stride, kind of studying what he needs to do in each individual corner so that on the lap it actually mattered, because it doesn't matter who's fastest FP1, 2, 3, Q1, Q2. It means nothing. And on the lap that it mattered, Oscar goes there and puts his banker in inverted commas and gets pole. And it's just that ruthlessness of, right now it's showtime, that I think Lando just got caught. I think Lando thought he was going to go quicker on his second run. Maybe the wind did whip up and it ruined all of that for him, but... just in these little moments here and there that are going to maybe decide the title, Oscar just seems to just be a little bit more ruthless, I think.
I think he's got that driving robot in him that I think Max has as well. It's like he when you need it, he has it, and he doesn't get flustered. Anyway, we talked about obviously Oscar getting pole in the first set of hot laps. Isaac qualified fourth in an RB, and Liam was eighth. Again, Liam, I don't want to make it all about Isaac, but Liam has looked so much better the last 6 or 7 races. Maybe he's taken Hulk's talent. Hulk got a podium. He gave away this qualifying talent to Liam. Liam still races like he's blind at times, but beyond that, he's looked a lot better.
He's definitely picked up the pieces, I think, of the disappointment of being ejected from the second Red Bull. It took a couple of races to get his head around it, and now he's
still races like there's Braille on the wheel at times, and he did it again today. We'll talk about it. But Ferrari, dang, just did not look good. Like I mean, we expect more than 6th and 7th.
Put a pin in that for later, because this feels like a absolute tale of what could have been for Ferrari and ultimately ends up being nothing. But we'll get there.
So we had fun watching this, and that was a good kind of setup for the race itself, which, at first people were saying there'd be rain all weekend, and then people were saying right before the race, no rain, and then the race comes around and maybe rain. And I'm thinking to myself, please, let's not get the deluge from 2 years ago. That just ruined the fun. If it's going to rain, make it, interesting and fun. But please, if rain,
it's going to rain, put it on the edge of being inters or not, so everyone has a decision to make.
Let's not ruin it.
Yeah.
And it didn't. I actually thought whatever happened with the rain today was fine. It was about a nothing burger.
Don't think Lewis will say that.
I agree. I actually think he's the only person who got affected by the rain, but we'll get into that.
So, it came round. I think everybody bar Max, Yuki, Colapinto, and Hulk started on the mediums, and those 4 started on the softs.
And I think, were there people on hards? I think the Haas might have been on hards.
Maybe, yeah. Behrman started from the pits because of reasons, and then we were ready for the start. We had Lewis being investigated for a yellow flag on his way to the grid.
Which is postponed to the end of the race, so we're recording it now. He's on his way to the stewards. We don't know. I don't like the investigated after the race.
No, I know what you mean. So then we get the start, and we get a nice clean start in terms of everyone gets away okay. There's no big first corner drama, but in terms of whatever it was, second and third, Max has made a good start, and as Oscar's cut off Lando. Lando's had to back out a little bit. Max senses blood and goes for it, and then goes round the outside of him into PlayStation mode, where all of a sudden he is able to snap the car left and right and look like he's heading into the grass and into the barriers, but then somehow press the X and the triangle button at the same time or whatever, and just not only save it, but make the overtake.
Well, so what I loved was actually Oscar. I liked that he came across early, cut Lando off, got him slowed down without Oscar slowing his progress. Then Max is charging on the outside, and I'm assuming he used his mirrors jack. And so then what he did was he went to the left, and he sees Max going around the outside. And for a moment, if you go back and watch, Max had to back out a little because Oscar was drifting towards the outside of turn 1, towards the end of 1, almost into 2. And so Max backs out a bit, but then gets right back on it, and like you say, is going down the inside of towards up to 3. And I don't understand. It was a 4-wheel drift, and he, like you say, the front was going one way, then it was going the other, and he saved it. And then he went on the grass a little after he saved it on the dusty side of the track, which everyone kept talking about, this dusty side of the track all day. It's a horrible name for a podcast. It's the dirty side of the track. And so I was impressed with Max's save. Some of my buddies were texting me as well that it was pretty amazing. And then in the cool-down room, they all seemed to like looking at it too, like, woo! The Drew from Isaac and Oscar, woo! A little, impressive save by Max. But it did give Max second. And it would take a while until Lando, I think it was 9, until he could finally get his spot back.
Yeah.
But, Lando got cut off. Could he have gone a little harder around 3 on the outside and try to hold that spot? Maybe. But I think he was wise. He backed out a little, saved his tires, lit up a charge a few laps, 8 laps later, and got his spot back.
No, I'd agree. And I think, for all of the Qualy talk about saying that maybe Oscar is sometimes a little more ruthless, I think in the past what we've said about Lando is he's a little bit impulsive and makes some rash decisions. But that was maybe last year. This year, I think he's looking a lot more mature in that, because like
Yeah.
you say, could he have left his foot in and tried to go around the outside? Yeah, he could, but then him and Max might come together. He doesn't want to be signing out on turn 2 and letting Oscar disappear off into the distance. So he's let it go. He holds back. I mean, if this is what happened, he gets behind Max, eases out of that dirty air, lets his tires settle in, knows he's got the faster car, and then says, right, now I'll go on my charge.
Yep.
And that's exactly what he did. So I think that's...
Well, because he's fighting for a world championship. He's not
Exactly.
fighting for that position with Max on lap 1. And he's not fighting Max for the world championship. He's fighting Oscar. And that's why the way his race ended was such a bummer for, I think, the whole F1 community. But we'll get to that.
So my first and my sliding doors moment for Ferrari this weekend is third lap. Charles has a chance at Hadjar, and whether he just thinks it's too early in the race and thinks better of it, but he doesn't commit to it, and he backs out really hard. Even the commentators called it and went, whoa. He's like, not only did he fall back in like a few tenths, he fully fell out of DRS of Isaac.
Right, and then George was like
come
right there,
chasing right. So now he spends the next few laps trying to get out of George's DRS and move back to where he was for Isaac. And had he got that move done then, I'm going to say right now that Ferrari looked like it had the pace to catch Max, but it couldn't deal, for whatever reason, with that car. It can't deal with dirty air for very long, and they have to keep dropping back to cool the engine and then have another run. And that was Charles's story today. We'll come back to it later where he has another gut chance. But the fact that he could not get past Isaac forever not only cost him getting the fourth spot off Isaac, I honestly believe it stopped him getting the podium off Max as well. I think that Ferrari had race day pace. It just went nowhere today.
You know what? That's a fair point. I think that's a fair point. It could have unfolded that way. I'd like to take, and you and I were talking about this, so it's not like I'm making a big move here. I mean, he was driver of the day, but Isaac defending on Charles at this point, later on defending on George, who was coming after him before he got damaged. He drove beyond his rookie campaign resume would describe. He defended fourth place, but he didn't fall back into the battles. Like, meaning his gap to Max was pretty much the same the whole time, yet he was playing defense. He didn't fall backwards into the clutch of the attacker by overplaying his defense. I thought he was great. I thought he kept his head about him. When we watched other people make mistakes, Isaac didn't. And we have been an Isaac Hadjar fanboy podcast for a while now, not just because he started right in front of us in Canada and we were waving to him and he was waving back. That's not the only reason, but it's up there. But we've been a fan of his for a bit. This was, I hope, sort of that transformative drive for him where he sees, I can do this in F1.
Yeah.
I've done it. I've raced the big boys and I held my own. I hope this kind of is an unlock as he just continues to mature, because that was the type of drive that someone may want to see from him and say, all right, he is the real deal.
Yeah, agree. And what that Isaac and Charles battle kind of also helped show us on lap 9 was just how much faster McLaren are around here. If you didn't understand the difference in performance, just go back and watch this and watch Charles struggle. Even though he's in a much quicker car, he hasn't quite got the advantage in performance to be able to put a move into turn 1 into DRS. He gets so close every single time, but never within lunging distance. When Lando cruised up on Max, maybe Max decided his race wasn't with the McLarens and didn't put up too much of a fight,
but
right?
yeah.
But even if he did try to put up a fight, he wasn't going to hold Lando for more than maybe one more lap, because the difference in performance, where Lando was able to start his move to overtake Max, felt like it was like half a mile earlier than when Charles was able to put it on Isaac, just because of how much extra performance that McLaren had. So lap 9, Lando gets Max, and it's just now looks like it's going to be a sewn-up 1-2 for McLaren, and just what order is it going to be? We kind of carry on with our notes that, lap 12, Charles still can't get Hadjar. He just can't get past him. In fact, this was the point where Karun said the thing that I was already thinking, that he felt that the Ferrari had the pace, that if he could just clear Isaac, then he could go off and maybe hunt down a podium. But no, even more at 14, Hadjar actually got back into Max's DRS.
That's what I'm saying. He didn't just defend against. He just didn't defend backwards. He kept moving forwards.
Do you think there is some kind of little... I know they're not allowed to communicate, but I don't think Hadjar did have the pace to make an attack on Max at any point today. I think the cars look really, really similarly balanced, right? But do you also think there's a little part of Hajar that's just going, okay, you're in fourth. This is like a dream come true. You've never finished this high before. Let's just keep these guys behind us, and let's not ruffle any feathers by trying to take on Max. Just because he was basically a cork in a plug that was protecting Max's podium.
He
at
was.
This point.
And you know what? It was interesting too, because it wasn't all DRS behind him, but it was a DRS type train, because Charles was right behind Isaac in that at times, and then George, and then everybody else behind them. And it did seem like a little bit like the cork in the bottle. No, I think if Isaac had the pace, I think he goes up to Max and races him. I don't think he has that deferential treatment in him to give to someone else. He's a racer. He's like, I'm taking that spot off you. I don't care if you're the 4-time reigning champion. I think he would do it. At this point, one of the things that really bothered me happened, and I know it's a nothing burger. This is a no big deal. Earlier, Colapinto had passed the gas man. It was on lap 6. It was a nice move. Colapinto was on soft tires, gas man on mediums. That's probably the reason. Lap 6, he takes him kind of on the inside. It was a quality move that we'd seen last year out of Colapinto at Williams. And we're like, all right, looks good. And then the team gets on the blower right away on lap 15 and says, yeah, swap positions, because his soft tires had gone off. It sucks passing your teammate, because if your tires go off, they're going to make you give the spot back. If he'd pass someone else, he plays defense. So there's almost like limited incentive to pass your teammate on a tire offset, because if it undoes itself, you're just going to lose the spot again. So like he had to risk it for the biscuit, and then like, we need that back. I felt bad for Franco. And I'm saying this as my own Colapinto over here. So it was it was sad to see that happen.
Then around lap 20, we started getting like the will it, won't it rain. We get like the lens on the camera started getting droplets, because all we'd had at this point was Oscar reporting some drops in the visor. And all I could think of was George and sweat. But no, we got raindrops on the camera lens. We had ponchos and umbrellas in the crowd. I was like, okay, what's gonna happen here then? We're going to go through maybe a couple of laps of greasy-ish conditions if this is falling enough. But this, I mean, you could see with your own eyes. You don't need to be a Formula One engineer to know we were nowhere near Inters. So this was just going to be one of those annoying, drizzly showers, it seemed, which is just going to make it greasy.
Which, as we know and having watched, it makes the paint, the white lines in any painted areas, especially the painted areas, because the white lines are made of a special paint that's not supposed to get as slippery, makes everything a little more greasy, slippery, a little more slippery when wet. And all of a sudden, we look at Lewis Hamilton on lap 23 with an entire right side of his car on turn 3, the banker, both tires off on the paint, not on the white line, on the paint, and then he can't recover it and goes straight into the end of the barrier at the end of the turn 3 thing and rips the entire right side of his car off. And I'm like, and again, we don't know anything. We're just two fans watching from afar. But if you had told me, hey, oi, the paint gets slippery. And Lewis is like, no, it wasn't the paint. I had a different problem. No, you ran on the paint and it got slippery and you couldn't get off the corner.
I was going to say, if no one really understands what understeer is, there's a certain replay of Lewis head on coming around that corner. And as he drifts over the white line onto the green, you can see he's turning the wheels. You can see the wheels start to try to turn, but there ain't no grip happening there, so it just drifts wide out into the barrier, and that's the end of the race. So that is, I believe, what they call understeer.
They interviewed him later. Happens. Yeah, they interviewed him later. He said that wasn't the reason. I'm pretty sure that was the reason.
So then we had waiting for them to clear the car. It looked like it was pretty near an exit point, so we thought we wouldn't lose too many laps on there. Verstappen came into the mediums, and everyone else went on hards. But then we had a radio message. So, and this was like Lando, like almost trolling his own pit lane. He's like, okay. So, what happened to Lewis then? Did he get on the green paint? Is it slippery there? And they were like, yes. That looks like what happened. He went out onto the green and it's slippy out there and he crashed. He was like, yeah, that would have been nice information for you to give me.
That was so funny. That was.
I just thought that was brilliant. It's just Lando. You're driving this car around, probably got a million things going through your brain about the restart, and he just schools his radio engineers and goes, "Yeah, stuff like that. Let's file that under things to share in the future."
That was good. And again, a lot of people boxed. We did not mention Aston Martin boxed Lance on my fantasy team, as I already referenced, triple Aston on lap 9. And so I did not understand that. They put him on hards. I was very curious because the rain was potentially coming. And then Aston Martin said, you know what, we're really going to go with this early pit stop thing and boxed Alonso on 19. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're trying to ruin my race? I'm literally yelling at the TV. I'm like, not only do I have both of these cars you've boxed too early, I also have the constructor. And I called him a lot of names. But at this point, yes, under the safety car that Lewis caused, everyone boxed. However, the thing we didn't mention is Charles Chuck Leclerc had boxed on lap 22. He lost a position because he was out there tootling the whole time under the safety car. Everyone else got their free, cheap pit stops. He lost a spot to George. George and Charles are going to factor together here shortly. We'll get to that. But I felt for Charles as his teammate caused him to lose a position by crashing like that and by his bad luck of boxing one lap too early. But that's okay. So the safety car ends. And we see the first of many head scratchers happen today. Sainz, as they end the safety car, Oscar does a good job on the restart. Lando does a good job on the restart. Hold position at the front. Isaac does too. Max, no real change. But Sainz and Lawson decide it's time to go for it. And as they get the restart, they're battling each other. Here's how I saw it. Here's how Brian saw it. It looked like they were back and forth on the turn into one. They were like figuring out who's going where. Lawson kind of darted to the right. Carlos goes to the left. They go around the corner. Carlos is hanging on to the outside. And Lawson pulls far enough ahead, and he almost has him, but he doesn't. And Lawson, as I said earlier, decides, I've cleared him. I must be clear of him. I'm going to cut him off as hard and violently as I can and allow my car to go to left, because that's a natural movement of your car to left. But he did not hold. He could have stayed further to the right. He allowed the car to move to the left kind of violently and just took the whole front off Carlos's car and caused himself a puncture. He lost his left rear. Carlos lost his right front and his wing. And somehow the FIA...
Pause there. So I'm with you. I agree that on first view, that's exactly what I thought. And then when we saw a few replays, I'm like, did Lawson suffer from understeer? Have we still got the greasy conditions out here? Did he actually let it go, or did it just understeer into him? But at this point, I'm thinking, so even if that's true, right now I'm looking at either Lawson getting done for causing a collision,
right,
or writing it off as a racing incident because he was kind of far enough past him, and then it kind of understeered into him. So I'm thinking these are the two potential outcomes that I'm seeing.
Me too. I thought it could be a racing incident. If it's greasy out, we just restarted. Maybe he didn't let his wheel go and kind of held the line, but he understeered into him. Okay, racing incident. They both suffered pain from it. I know you're not supposed to look at the outcome, but they both suffered, had to box. Fair. When they came on the radio and said Carlos got a 10-second penalty, I still don't understand. I don't. And Carlos was bewildered when they told him this. He's like, "What? Me?"
Yeah, I was right there with him. I even messaged you or put it in the notes of I think they just flashed up Carlos, but then it seemed to go again as quickly as it was there. So was that a mistake? Just no way. Now, also at this point, I was starting to get a little bit worried because there'd been talk of one stoppers being on the cards today, and we'd had a safety car, VSC. It was like, oh no, this is going to be a boring tyre management thing. Brian swooped in to allay my fears here that because we'd gone one step softer this year in compounds, even this year's hard was last year's
mediums.
Anyway, shouldn't be able to go too long, so we shouldn't be at a one stopper. So I was like, okay, fine, let's get back on. Let's see if we can get some racing going, because we're 30 odd laps in. We've had a Lewis smash, but we haven't had lots of overtakes or racing yet. So Charles is like, right, I lost a position, hold my beer, it's now time, and I'm going to say this the English way, Brian, it's now time for Destruction Derby that I used to play on the PlayStation. I'm just coming at you, and if we have to make contact while I come past you, well, go cry. And he just absolutely put a lunge up the inside of George, which I thought was brilliantly judged. I don't think he ever gets all four wheels off the track. They want about overtaking and going off the circuit.
Right.
Every angle that they showed, either at one point, either the front right or the rear right was always on the right side of the white line. So did he maximize that rule for his advantage to keep the minimum amount of his car on track as possible? Yeah, I think he did. Has George got anything to cry about? I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Nah. What? Tell me what Charles does there.
Runs into him.
George leaves enough.
Runs
inside.
into him.
He doesn't know.
Yes, he does. There's contact.
He takes it, contact, after he's already an axle front axle ahead.
But So,
So
you
if
talked
you
about a
leave- if you
PlayStation
leave-
move. You talked about a
if you
PlayStation
leave-
move from
A
Max.
PlayStation
so-
move, because I would just never have gone for that. I only in the world of PlayStation, where I'm just going to throw it up the inside. And see
But
what
Charles
happens, right?
did. He did a PlayStation move in real life that I would do all the time. Like, how do I describe this? I would often play NASCAR because you're allowed to do that move. You're allowed to go shooting down a track and use someone else's car to slow your progress as you overcook a corner. I feel like Charles went in with a massive dive bomb. The only way he could get out of it was by bumping off a George to slow down his progress and get back on the.
No, because if he's going to risk that much contact, he's basically putting his own race at jeopardy.
He did. That's what he did.
You can't go
though.
into a corner that hard and think, well, the only way I can come out of this is by making big impact, because these cars can't take big impact. I just thought that was on a track where you just can't make overtakes. The moment you see somebody leave the window or the door ajar, you get your foot in there and you go through.
But to your point, it's a destruction. What do you call it? Derby.
Destruction derby rather than derby.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So if it's a derby, what you still have contact. He ran into him. Like, I love Charles. I am the biggest Charles supporter around. What he did was he pulled off a move that only worked by bouncing off the inside of George. There's no way that works otherwise.
No way.
Yes,
There wasn't that much contact between them.
There was pretty good. What are you talking about? George's car was dropping carbon fiber all over the place. His race was compromised because he didn't have the arrow, and they had to do VSCs for marshals to go out and get pieces of George's car.
Wing that you can sneeze on and it will fall into a million pieces. I'm talking about race-ending contact. There was not. Anyway, we don't know because we were recording so early. I don't think Charles even got a penalty for it.
Well, but they referred that to after the race too. Another
true.
thing
We'll
which
see. We'll
sucked.
see.
I agree. Maybe they'll view it as
just an incident,
but maybe they won't.
So now, this is our second sliding doors moment. Charles has now fully got adrenaline coursing through his veins. He absolutely gobbles up the distance between himself and Isaac. He gets right into Isaac's DRS. This is now the moment. Make the move and go chase Max. And we just got stuck in, well, I guess, the combination of Isaac great driving and defending and whatever reason, not enough performance delta to be able to get the move done, because it was just Groundhog Day from this point. He couldn't ever get the move done. So we kind of gave up on that story, and a different storyline started to come around the late 30s, early 40s, which was Alonso was getting a little bit frustrated. He was sitting in a really long DRS train. They were asking, how's the tyres? How's the balance? And he basically just told them to do one and said, don't be talking to me about tyre balance. How come every time you put me out in traffic, this is terrible, what we're going to do about it? And like, you could almost feel like the awkwardness of that across the radio waves. They were like, we'll take a look.
And but he even says, should we try an undercut? And I'm sitting here thinking an undercut won't work if no one else boxes. Everyone's going to the end. If you can undercut yourself, I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about here. If you box to build an offset, that's not an undercut. And so I'm thinking, what is he talking about? Does he know no one else is going to box at this point? And yes, there was some boxing. We'll get into what happens. But yes, that was an angry Fernando sitting back there. And at this point, an angry Brian, because Lance and Fernando were like nowhere. Lance was sniffing the points at this point, and I'm like, oh, God, triple Aston. I'm like, oh, God, no. No, God, no. But anyway, it keeps getting a little spicy. I will say this. Yuki was trying to get Ollie, which is what was pissing off Fernando, because he's right behind Yuki.
Yeah.
And he's watching the two of them. Yuki had a chance around the outside at one point. I think we both agree, and commentary agreed. He backed out pretty heavily. Like, he didn't really commit to it. And at this point, Fernando's like, I can't do this. I can't pass two guys battling each other. Just get me out of here. Undercut, overcut, side cut. I don't care. Just put me on inters. Just get me out of here. And it was fascinating. But at this point, things started to happen. Like, again, we talked about this in the opening. It was an interesting race, right? There was always something keeping your attention. George had to swap with Kimi because of the damage to his car. He was not happy about that message, but he did it pretty fast, because by the time they cut to the Mercedes, it was already swapped. They didn't even wait for the straight. He did it on the back, and that was fascinating. And I don't know. I mean, this Ferrari, they had to keep, again at this point, tell him you got to lift and coast. And every time he get close to challenging Isaac, he's like, yeah, I got to back off. And it looked fast. Like, it did look like a faster car. It liked the hard tires. It seemed to come alive.
Yes.
But if you couldn't get past someone fast, you had to back out and let things cool off.
Yeah, and that was just the rinse and repeat, and it just seemed to keep going all day. So then, like you say, Alonso just decided to pit, or I think the team just sort of went, look, he's just going to keep being in our ear for the rest of this race. Let's just give him what he wants, and then maybe he'll shut up.
Like, yeah, fine.
So
here's a pacifier and 4 new tires.
Yeah, so he comes in and gets hards, and within almost like no time whatsoever, he was almost back to where he was. He'd made up an entire pit stop. Once the Aston was in free air and on those fresh hards, he just raced back up to the train that he'd been on before. And I was like, well, at this point, I was like, I'm not sure it's going to work, but he was out of the point, so I guess why not roll the dice? I mean, like you said, you agree, and that maybe he'll actually have some fun now and not be so
right. Maybe that was for him.
grumpy.
Now it's like I can just overtake people in the back. And at this point, Haas is drawing the ire of everyone because they're still sitting there like 10th and 11th, and no one can get past them, and they haven't boxed. They're on the same tires from the start. And they've basically ruined the racing of the midfield or the back of the pack, whatever you want to say. But 10th onwards, 10th to 17 was just super boring. And, this pretend American team was just ruining for everyone. But at this point, I was a little surprised because 52 of 72, Kimi comes in for soft tires on his Mercedes. And Charles and the Ferrari team react. They go, all right, we don't want to be undercut here, so we're going to box for softs too. They had the window now that Kimi wasn't there, so they box for softs. And as he comes out, Kimi comes around the corner and he's like, oh, here's the guy I'm racing now. Since I got ahead of George because of George's damage, I'm racing with Charles. We're both on soft tires. We both just boxed. What I might do is just run into the side of him on turn 3. And I'm like, I'm watching this. I'm like, you can see it coming too. You can see as Charles comes out of the pits, Kimi's like, I got a car coming out on brand new 4-second-old tires. I'm going to see if I can take him on turn 3 on the inside. What he didn't factor in was you have to hold the inside. You can't just let your car go shooting off the outside literally right into the side of Charles. I know he's a rookie. It was a mistake. I don't know if it's a rookie mistake. It was just a mistake. I loved watching Charles sit on the sand dunes for the rest of the day. But how in the world did he get the same penalty as Carlos? There has to be gradations, if that's even a word, of penalties. Like, I know they published their guide to penalties. Thank you for being transparent. But there should be one that says, big mistake, clearly your fault, take someone out, huge error, 10 seconds. A car cuts in front of you, we don't think you did anything wrong, 10 seconds. What? What? What are we talking about here?
Well, and as incredulous as you were with all of that, the ones whose eyes lit up as Kimi smashed into Charles were the Haas boys, because that was their whole strategy. Hang out here for as long as we can until we absolutely have to make our pit stop and just hope that there's a safety car where we get a free one. And boy, oh boy, did that work out for them. It also worked out for Alonso, because after doing his rocket ship challenge, he'd found his way back up to 11th, and then the safety car came out for the Kimi incident. Everybody decided to box that hadn't boxed, and suddenly he finds himself sitting in 9th. So I think we had a happy Alonso at this point, and maybe a happy Brian from a fantasy perspective.
I loved watching this.
And what we ended up with this next restart was a tyre offset that maybe was going to come into play. I wasn't really sure at this point. I was working out how long did the softs last in the first stint, because now we got Max on softs behind McLaren's on hards. There's about 14, 15 laps left or whatever it was, maybe a bit more, maybe 16, 17. But the cars are lighter, and I think Max boxed around lap 50 when he started on soft. So I'm doing all this mental gymnastics to go, is Max back in this race or not? Turned out that as soon as we had the restart, Max hung out in Lando's DRS for a little bit and looked like he was going to take him, and then the McLarens disappeared.
They're too fast.
Too fast.
Oh, yeah. And so Ollie Behrman, it did work out for Haas. He gets Bortoletto, and he ends up, where'd Ollie end up finishing? He was 6th, given Kimi's penalty. So it did. The Haas strategy, which ruined a good portion of the midfield backmarker race, it worked for him. Antonelli under investigation for speeding the pit lane, as we all know. When that pops up, that's usually a guaranteed 5-second penalty. They don't normally put that up there and then are like, oh no, it turned out you were under 80 kph. No, You're always done. Like, they know, they have the data, they do the investigation. I don't know what the investigation looks like. It's like, should we double check? Oh, 82? Yep, penalty. And so 5-second penalty to add on top of Kimi's race. And Kimi must be thinking, hey, what I got to do is build a delta to the people behind me. The worst thing in the world that could happen for me would be a safety car, because it'll bunch us all back up and I'll just fall to the bottom of the order like happened to Carlos Sainz in Australia a couple years ago. Well, just wait, Kimi. It's about to get worse.
Well, yeah, at this point, we were coming into, there were 10 laps left. It was 62 out of 72. And everyone was getting spicy in that kind of tail end of the points, thinking there were points up for grabs here. And I wrote in the notes, I get a funny feeling this race might end under safety car because I can just see one of the lower point chasers doing something stupid. Now, we will get another safety car in a few laps' time, but it won't be for something stupid. It will be for something kind of heartbreaking, really. But yeah, Kimi's day, like you say, is about to get a whole bunch worse. And we got Behrman hanging out in 8th now after his pit lane start. Stroll overtakes the gas man, and as he goes past, he says, "This one's for Sap." We heard that on the radio. And Lando is starting to catch Oscar now, and we're thinking we could be on for a little bit of a grandstand papaya battle here. Because
And
we're
I'm
getting close
so
to DRS.
excited. I got Lando and Oscar, and I put the autopilot on, so whichever one does better, the double DRS goes to them on fantasy. And I'm thinking, wait, there's what? Smoke in the cockpit? Wait, hold on a second. What's he saying? And at one point, my fantasy team, I cried for this DNF incoming. But then I looked, and I'm like, Isaac Podium, please. And both things are happening in my addled mind. The Chex Mix and Diet Cokes are just flowing, and I just don't know what to do. It was amazing. Horrible though. Let's talk about the Lando thing for a second. I think we all universally, as F1 fans, whether you like McLaren, Oscar, or Lando or not, you want to see it decided on track. You want to see the World Championship, which is the only championship being decided. Constructors are done. It's McLaren. There's no one going to catch Lando or Oscar at this point unless something really strange happens. So it's a Lando-Oscar battle to the end to see who wins. There are 9 races left after today. It's all on the table for a great finish. And you don't want to see someone lose 18 points because their car conks out with 8 laps to go in a race. Just stinks. It stinks for the racing. It stinks obviously for Lando. It stinks for McLaren. It stinks for fans who are like looking for a tight battle. 18 points, a lot of points. That was more than the delta between them when the race started. I feel bad for Lando. He did nothing wrong. The team obviously didn't engineer this to happen. The Mercedes engine wasn't engineered to give up. No one planned it this way. Just sucked for everybody.
Yeah. And then when we get to the restart now, so it's going to be the third restart that Oscar's going to have to do. I was kind of thinking, I wonder if this is going to play on his mind here, because he's got yet another restart to do. He's got Max right behind him, and he thinks, like, how much can I put my foot to the floor here and not suffer from what just happened to Lando? I guess you just have to put that out of your mind and just say, look, whatever will be, will be. If this car's going to give up, there's probably nothing I can do about it. So you just race it like it's perfect and hope for the best, I guess. But he did. He nailed third restart out of 3. Never seemed to really come under threat from any of the restarts that he did. So he kind of nailed that. And he takes it home. And Max comes home second. And on the third step of the podium, we got Mr. Hadjar. Yeah.
It was awesome. I have a quick stats, because since we're doing this so fast, I only have a couple. Therefore, it's the Nokia sound. SAP stats, very, very, very fast rapid reaction Dutch Grand Prix edition. So, Grand Slam for Oscar. I didn't even think of that till they said that on the commentary. And we obviously saw him on pole. We saw him win. He had the fastest lap, but led the whole way because of the safety cars. Allowed him, he didn't have that big a lead like Max used to do when he got his Grand Slams, where he could box from the front and stay in the front. This was a safety car aided, but still counts because it's amazing Grand Slam. Isaac with his first career podium. He's the 5th youngest person to ever be on the podium. One of the ones in front of him, Kimi Antonelli. And then I started thinking, I think that he's the 3rd new podium finisher in F1 this season. Kimi in Canada, which we were there for. Nico, obviously breaking his career-long streak in Silverstone. And now Isaac. So 2 rookies and gray hair all got their first podium so far this year, which is awesome. And if I'm wrong and missed one, tell me, because that one's off the top of my head as we're recording. But I think that's right.
Yeah,
and those are the stats I could come up with.
Well, you say those are the stats, but I was here just checking other things out, and I happened to see a Dirty Side Twitter message pop up from good old Andy Tales, friend of the show. He says, despite all the odds, Isaac Hadjar can still win the Drivers' Championship. So because of his result today, he's not one of the ones that is dropping off the list of... They've been... I don't know if you've been keeping up. People have been like chalking off
statistically
the people
possible,
mathematically cannot win. But by getting third spot today, Isaac has kept himself in the championship hunt.
Now, those are some long odds in Vegas, but if you're a gambling man...
Yeah, so appreciate that one, Andy. Thanks for that.
So after that, those three on the podium, Russell, Albon, Behrman, Stroll, thank you, Lance. Fernando, thank you, Fernando. Yuki in the points for the first time in forever.
Yep.
And then Esti. So we had double points at Haas, double points at Aston Martin. And Albon's fifth, witness protection. We saw him very little this race. He was in that group.
Yep.
And when they showed him on the finishing fifth, I'm like, wait, Albon in a Williams fifth? I forgot about him.
Everybody
Didn't know he was racing.
Forgot about him because even when Crofty was talking to James Vowles, they messed it all up completely and went, "Yeah, Alex seems to be having a good race. I mean, after an awful start and blah 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 blah." And then James went, "An amazing start. He was up 5 spots."
Yeah,
couldn't have messed that one up more if you tried.
But
yeah, so now it's time for us to quickly reflect on our thoughts on this race. Give out our king of the pits and then hear from the man, the myth, the legend, Pitlane Paul himself. So we started this whole episode by saying, was it a good race?
Yeah.
So my little perspective is it wasn't a good race for the first 4-5 spots, maybe. Not really a lot happened in the front end at all, other than attrition because of the engine going. If it hadn't been for that
right.
Nothing was really breaking those. That was just coming home. We never really had any excitement for the lead or any excitement for the podium, other than the podium changing hands because of engine failure. But for everything that happened in between, and because of all the safety cars that came in and kept giving everybody a second bite of the cherry, to like even people that were lapped, like Sainz and Lawson, at least got to be feisty again in the second half of the second safety cars because they were all brought back into it again.
Right.
So I don't know. Was it a great race? Probably not. But did I enjoy it? Yes, I really did.
So interestingly, I think we've come up with a new category. We've had good races on track, and we know those. We all agree. The listeners, you all let us know as well. We can feel when it's a good on-track race. This wasn't that. And there's something on the other side, which is like Brazil a year ago with the heavy rain. It was a little bit of a gimmick farce type thing. Like, it's fun to watch, but it wasn't on-track action. It was stuff happened. This was kind of in between, where it was somewhat manufactured. Safety cars brought people back in, brought people closer together. Was it great on-track racing? Probably not overall. Did Charles play bumper cars on George? Yes. Did Kimi run into Charles? Yes. Did Carlos get a penalty for trying to battle Stevie Wonder Lawson? Yes. Was that good? No, but was it fun to watch? Definitely. So, I don't think it was a farce where, I wouldn't have considered it racing. It was racing, but it was a little bit manufactured because of the circumstances, is the way I would say it. A lot of safety cars, VSCs, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I would definitely rewatch it, but was it the best on-track action we've seen this year? Heck no.
No. So let's give our awards out before we hear from Mr. Pitlane Paul. So do you want to fire up the... Oh, yeah, I was going to say that.
Sorry, I was excited as F1.
You were ready, you go for it.
They put the timing board on the side of the intros. Here I am playing King of the Pits as you're still talking, and let's try it one more time.
You're the king of the pits.
And I'm going to go first because mine is very straightforward and easy. I'm going with the driver of the day. I'm going with the guy we cheer for, the rookie, Isaac Hadjar, putting no foot wrong, played good defense, didn't lose his offense, didn't fall back into anyone's clutches, stayed on loosely the same distance from Max the whole time, didn't lose his head, did a great job. Yes, Oscar won. He did amazing safety car restarts. He's my honorable mention, but Isaac. as my winner.
Yeah, and because I figured you would say that by going first, I will flip that completely.
You going
and
Oscar?
Say that I'll go Oscar because I think that's his first Grand Slam, and I think he did nothing wrong. I thought he was ruthless when he needed to be in Qualy to get that pole, and then never looked back, and just nailed the start, nailed 3 restarts, and absolutely deserved his win today. But my huge honourable mention would be Isaac, because that was just amazing watching him stand on the podium. So they're between us, but I think we got both bases.
I think we got it. And here's the pits.
You're the pits.
I'm happy to go first, but I'll allow you to if you'd like.
Oh, you'll allow me? Oh, thank you.
Oh, I'm happy to.
I got a flag up on the wall behind me that has a Ferrari logo on it because I'm a Ferrari fan. So therefore, because you ruined the chance of Charles potentially chasing down Isaac and getting that podium position, or Max, sorry, or anybody else, Kimi, what were you doing? Why do you think you can make an overtake on the inside of that bank corner on fresh tyres that are probably not quite ready yet in the zone? So, and there's probably others that I'm completely ignoring because I'm having my Ferrari glasses on and blaming Kimi.
That's fine. I'm going to wear my Lewis fan glasses, and I'm giving it to Lewis. He went on the paint. It was raining. We saw what you did. You went on the paint. It was slippery. You understeered off and hit the barrier at the end of the corner. By the way, that's a very aggressive end of corner barrier, because if you look, it then recedes. The corner then goes. So like they just basically jut out this end of corner thing. Like, well, if you're not going to make it, we're going to make sure you crash. Like, you could trim that down. But anyway, I got to give it to Lewis. I'm fairly confident what happened was it started spitting rain. He went on the paint. And he lost the car to the understeer and the slippery of the paint and ended his race. And he's a 7-time world champion who should know better than to go on the slippery paint on turn 3 at Zandvoort.
As the great Bon Jovi sang, "Slippery When Wet." No, that was the album title, "Slippery When Wet."
Yes, I did that already. Let's hear.
No, you didn't say it.
I did earlier in the race. Listen back. Now I'm going to listen for my birthday shout out. You listen for me saying "Slippery When Wet" earlier. I dropped.
But
that
did you
in
say
there.
Bon Jovi?
I did not, and his name's actually Bon Jovi, but that's okay. So here we go.
No, that's his name, not the band name.
So Paul sent us a report that we have not heard because we are recording so quickly after the race. I look forward to hearing Paul's take on the Dutch Grand Prix.
Hey now! Holland Grand Prix done and dusted. Second half of the year well underway. What have we got to report on for the summer break? Any news? Might be a little bit. That involves a new American team and nominating 2 drivers. I'm not going to speak too much on that one because I'm sure you guys have covered it. But
We did.
Guess who's back? What else? No, guessing. Don't need to guess. It's been the news. Anyway, Dutch Grand Prix. Sorry, let's just continue there. Right then, what we got? What happened? I'm not going to do qualifying. Not going to do Friday because we don't need to. I'm just going to try and cover everything in the race. Started as expected. Max, I think, was always probably going to end up P2 just because of the way that the grid is. Isn't it weird how second on the grid in terms of Lando actually acts as a disadvantage and third actually as an advantage? And you'll see that again next week with Monza, I think, because it's such a long run down to the first corner. Whatever. That's a whole different conversation. But genuinely thought the race was going to be awful. I'm longing for the rain to come, and it didn't really come. And it was a bit like 15 odd laps in, and you were just sort of looking at it thinking, literally want to smack myself around the head with a bat or something, just so give myself some form of entertainment. And then I guess the rain did sort of play a nice part. Lewis, bless him. It's what it was.
Did he go on the paint?
And he crashed.
Yeah.
And it sort of then it ended up making it pretty good. Very good. Excellent, if I've got to be honest with you. Then where are we going? Where are we going next? We're going from Lewis crashing to I think it was the restart with Charles and Russell. I liked it. I think that, there might be, what I said, it might be a penalty. There's no point for what happens later in the race, I guess. But I don't want to see a penalty given there, if I'm being honest with you, because I want to see good racing. And was it pushy? Was it edgy? Yeah. Did George give him enough room? No. Did Charles go off the track? Yes.
Love you, Paul.
So I think
it
would have been interesting. But again, I really don't want to see races decided in the FIA stewards room after the race. So it was a bit like that. It might have been that restart then, which had the controversial Carlos Sainz, Liam Lawson part, which, again, a 10-second penalty just seems absurdly harsh.
Yes.
In my opinion. I don't I don't know. It goes back to what we always say. I want to see overtaking. I want to see Leclerc versus Russell. I want to see that kind of move. I like it. But then, again, as a driver, you're not going to want to do those moves if you think you're just going to get a slam dunk 10-second penalty. What's the point? So I thought that was silly. I understand Carlos's frustration, and it ruined what was his racing theory. But and then so again, we're moving on. We obviously a few more instances. Kimi Antonelli, Kimi. Inexperienced, too brave. Was he stupid? Yes. Quite rightfully got the penalty. Then he got the penalty for speeding in the pit lane, which sort of compounded everything. But again, as we look at what happened towards the end of the race, the extra 5 seconds probably wouldn't have made a great deal of difference anyway. Terrible day for Ferrari, based purely on that. And then I'm not going to dwell too much. I'm not going to take too much of your time. I just want to talk about individual people. I'm going to start, I believe, P7. And you guys probably have beat on Lance Stroll through this podcast so far. Crash in practice, crash in qualifying.
Yeah, that part.
It's easy to slate him, but then he produces what he did in the race. And all the people who like to laugh at him, all the people who like to point fingers and be whatever with him, let the same people have that opinion now. Am I a Lance fan? I'm not going to say yes or no to being a Lance fan. But what I am going to say is, if you've got a guy that's going to start down the back of the grid, yes, benefited off safety cars, yes, benefited off circumstance. However, he got the car to finish in P7.
That's why he's on my fantasy team.
Ahead of his teammate. So you have to take your hat off if you're wearing one. If you're not, go get one, put a hat on, then take it off. Otherwise, that saying is worthless. So when you've done that, let me know, and I will continue with my next driver. That is going to be Ollie Behrman. Just because the same sort of thing as Lance, really, is, start from the pit lane, a few little gambles, something falls your way, and you end up in a fantastic position. So absolute credit to him. George Russell, a damaged car. I mean, I'm astounded Mercedes haven't re-signed the guy yet. They might well have done. Actually, I don't actually genuinely know, but I just think he's doing an excellent job. He's got a damaged car. He's doing a great job. He's finishing the points. He's super consistent. Let's move up. I'm gonna bypass the main man because I got a little bit emotional to check his flag, which is weird, but I couldn't help it. And so I'm going to talk about him at the end. I'm going to go straight for Max because I think Max, he's just ridiculously good, isn't he? Sapman, you're still horrendously wrong. Driving the second Red Bull car is a problem. It's not the driver. It is 100% the car.
That's what I say.
You can see
he's got it reversed. It's you.
And like I said, no discredit to anyone. That is just has to be fact. So great job for Max, and I'm going to come back to that very line very shortly. So I'm just going to mention Lando. Really feel for Lando. I don't want to see a championship decided off a car failure because that really sucks. But that's motorsport. That's just the way, unfortunately, life goes. So I'm going to say congratulations to Oscar. Naturally, it's great for him. I'm an Oscar fan, so it's fantastic. I am going to end with the guy who we probably all laughed at in Australia when he didn't even make the start of the race, and then he walked down the pit lane or the paddock, helmet on, crying his eyes out, and everyone poked fun at him, everyone laughed at him. I'm going to leave you with this. Who's laughing now? Yes, my man, P3, that was incredible. Yes, benefited from Lando, but the guy qualified in fourth, held off the cars behind in realistically a slower car. And you cannot help but feel just nothing but happiness for that kid. Just, it's maybe a day for haters, isn't it? The Lance Stroll haters, middle fingers, the Isaac Hajar people. And to be fair, I've maybe been critical of rookie drivers. I think we all have. We've all been critical of Lance, so we're all guilty. But it's nice to see them do well. Anyway, over and out. Great to be back. Next week, Italy. Boom.
Whew. A bumper edition from Paul there, but that was brilliant. I love it when we haven't heard it and you try to work out which things. But when you were saying you agree with him about the second seat, I think what he's trying to say is almost where I was going was you can't take the performance of the second car and then try to label Max's car as a tractor, because the second car is just no one can drive that. But anyway, let's.
Yeah, I would just like to be clear. I've long since said it's not the second driver's fault; it's the car, and I was even there before you.
It's to some degree it is the fault because they haven't got the skill to tame it the same way Max can.
No,
it's not a different car. It's not a different car, right? If you had somebody, if you could copy paste Max and have Max number 2. In that second seat,
right? He would be.
That second seat wouldn't be any worse. It would be the two would be inseparable.
I agree to that.
Right. So, while it isn't, it's difficult to say it isn't the fault of the drivers, because it is, because they can't step up and tame that car. But obviously, it's an untamable car that you have to be a generational talent like Max to be able to do. So it's kind of a tomato type discussion, because it's probably pointless. Let's get on with the standings, shall we?
I was going to make a Franz Liszt piano playing analogy, but let's skip that. So to the standings. Obviously, the constructors, it's still McLaren. I mean, it's by a country mile. It's not even an argument. I don't even have them up in front of me because I don't even care about them.
No, I do, but not because of the top, because you're right, because McLaren have got it. I think they said they can get it sewn up in Baku, but probably won't now because of the DNF today. But they'll be as close as damn it to being done then. But interestingly, the one that we were looking at, what feels like only a few races ago, Aston, like hanging out down the bottom, going, "What are you doing, Aston? What happened to you?" They're 6th now, and they're within sniffing distance of Williams in 5th. We thought Williams were almost in witness protection in 5th, all by themselves.
We did.
They're sitting there on 80 points, and Aston are next up with 62, with Racing Bulls behind them on 60. It's still Alpine that are just wallowing down the bottom on 20 points. Haas picked up points. And Racing Bull, Aston Martin and Williams all got a decent haul. So, yeah, that kind of best of the rest behind the McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull battle looks like it's between 4 teams. It's like Williams, Aston Martin, Racing Bulls, and maybe Sauber if you thought they could get it together enough. They probably won't. But drivers is where, you wonder if this becomes a pivotal moment in the championship. I think they were saying that if Lando had caught Oscar, had gone past him, we could have come out of this race weekend with 2 points between them. But because of that engine failure, what we end up coming out is, 34?
Yeah. And we lost 18 points.
Yeah, 34-point delta. So Oscar on 309 from Lando's 275. Max 70 points back in 3rd on 205. George on 184. And I think I'll just round out the top 5. Charles on 151. And down the bottom of the active drivers, we still have Colapinto pointless. Not a good look. And with the Briatore quote in between, our breaking new feature of news conference between FP1 and FP2, looks like he might not be. I mean, do you think they'll get rid of him before the end of the season with that kind of line? Or
at first, he's not coming into coming into the weekend, there was a conversation he may be there next season as well. And now we're back to is he going to finish the year? I don't know how you can expect a driver to settle in and do anything positive when they may be gone by tomorrow. Fantasy is still calculating. We're doing this so quickly. We will obviously cover this next week after Monza. We'll get back through the Dutch Grand Prix. But a quick note, fantasytools.com, who's in the league, we traded some notes a week or so ago, and they said, I don't know if it's he or she, they said, hey, don't give us the T-shirt for the first half lead. This is what we do. And we have a lot of fantasy people, like gurus, from people who provide content to people who are very good at it in the league. And they said, we're just happy to be part of the league. Give it to someone else. So the second place finisher at the summer break was Patrick Popinski. Box 1. Patrick, if you reach out to us, let us know. We will get you the T-shirt because Fantasy Tools was so gracious to let it go to somebody else. So I just wanted to highlight that, f1fantasytools.com. is letting the second place finisher from the mid-season championship get the T-shirt. So Patrick Popinski, I've probably messed that up. Box1, send us an email, dirtysideofthetrack.com. You can find all of our information. So we have another race. How great is that?
We have Monza next weekend. We have the Temple of Speed, as it's known, 53 laps of 3.6 miles. It's been around since 1922. It's hosted races from 1950 to 1979, took a two-year little break, and then came back in 81 to present date. So basically been there for the 75 years since F1 started, all bar a couple of years. It is one of these ones where if you go onto Wikipedia and look at kind of the track map evolution, it's one of these ones that's been through a gazillion different formats. Right back when it first started, it was almost like an American track in terms of it being a high-speed oval.
Very banked, very, very, very banked too, like an insane amount of banking.
Yeah, and they've gone through, like I say, gazillion different changes, which makes it difficult to think about like lap records, because it's like lap record according to which layout. But one thing that hasn't really changed is that F1 cars are at full throttle for about 80% of the lap here. 80%, where all you have to do is just keep your foot buried into the floor.
It is so low downforce. The wings are so skinny on the back of the car. It's like people wearing skinny ties. They got skinny wings is what they got going there. They don't do nothing, these wings. I love it. I love it.
And Paul mentioned, maybe the advantage of being third rather than second here because of the big run down to the first corner. It is a long run down, and it's a huge breaking point here because the chicane at the first corner is after you come around, was it the parabolica, and you slingshot onto the main straight, and then you're going at a gazillion miles an hour, and then you have to pick your point and brake for the chicane. We see a lot of incidents here. This was the place where Lewis ended up on top of Max's car, wasn't it? The other way around,
the first chicane.
Yep. So, having said that,
it was actually Max on top of Lewis's car.
That's right. Yeah. I think it was. So we had this layout has been in place since 2004, and Rubens Barrichello still holds the track record. And I put that in there because we saw the Zandvoort track record go this weekend.
I've seen a lot of them, actually. Yeah.
We've seen a lot this year. So interested to see if anyone breaks a 121.046 here. I wouldn't bet against one of the McLaren boys doing it, to be honest.
Not to promote ourselves, but when we did the Ascari Vales Tales, I didn't know he'd passed away at the chicane named for him. So all these years talking about the Ascari chicane on the back of the track here, I didn't know that's where he passed. So go back and listen to our Ascari Vales Tales to learn even more. I didn't know that until then. So another thing I've learned doing this podcast. Also, it's the Lesmo corners, not the Lesbo corners, which just for the 5-year-olds out there, just to be clear, that is what those are called as well.
Last year we had Lando, Oscar, and George finish 1, 2, 3 in Qualy. So no sign of anybody called Charles in that top 3. Yet, lo and behold, on race day, Charles won it. And if you remember this, so we had Oscar put a move on Lando into one of the chicanes where we all kind of looked at it and went, "Oh, you don't do that to a teammate." And it was a perfectly good pass. It was a good pass that he put on him, but I think it caught Lando so unawares that I remember me and you saying, like, Charles's eyes like lit up, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to have some of that as well. Then I'm going to come through there." So
was this the genesis of the official
Pyros?
I think so. I think this was the first race where we heard it used on the radio. I could be wrong.
We had Hungary, hadn't we?
Right, but they hadn't established the papaya rules.
Oh,
the Hungary
yeah,
was it was more like this.
It's gonna get boring.
So anyway, Charles got past Lando, and then they boxed him really early for hards, and he moaned at the strategy call, and he whinged at, "What are you talking about? Why am I?" We didn't get the whole "what are these tires," but we almost did. But it gave him the win. I think he made a one-stopper, didn't he? And made those tires.
I believe so. And this was after not long when George did the same at Spa, where we were seeing drivers call their strategy, and this one worked.
Yeah. So Charles got an emotional win at Monza. Other thing of note was K-Mag went and got penalty points for a collision with the gas man, which meant he went over the 12 penalty points in a 12-month period or whatever it is, or whatever the limit is, and he ended up missing Baku. I miss
K-Mag.
Yeah. Repeat winners around here. I cut this off at people that have got 3 or more, because if you look at anybody who's got 2, it's like 1 million people have got 2, and I'm not reading that whole list out. So drivers here with wins, tied in first spot on 5, Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher. With 4 wins, we have Nelson Piquet. And with 3 wins, we got Vettel, Barrichello, Prost, Peterson, Moss, Fangio, and then a couple with some non-championship wins in there, who we now know what those are, in Ascari and Nuvolari. In terms of constructors, it's Ferrari all the way, 21 wins here, McLaren 11, Mercedes 9, Alfa Romeo 8, Williams 6, Lotus 5, Red Bull 4, and then Brabham, BRM, and Auto Union with 3. I'm so glad we're keeping the non-championship stuff in there now that we know what it is.
Yeah, auto unions happened in the 30s, so those were clearly non-championship. They haven't even gotten to the 50 Silverstone. All right, casino games. I can't wait for Monza. I love Monza. It is, again, as Rob said, Temple of Speed. It's as much fun as it is. You don't always get the. If I'm being honest, I've in my memory some sort of more boring races because it's so fast. Like DRS doesn't do a lot, so like you don't always get a lot of overtakes. They exist. Let's just hope because of the end of the regs and the consolidation of people's times, we get some good racing out of this.
Okay, so let's do our casino game picks. Have you got the roulette wheel ready to
I will
spin
in a
as
second.
we roll that ball and see what position? So for anybody that's not listened to this before, we have our season-long Rob versus Brian battle. One of them are casino games. We have 3 games that we will play each race. First is the roulette table. In a minute, we're going to spin the wheel, see what position it gives us, and then we will both predict who finishes in that position. There are no points on offer for being close. You have to nail it or nothing. Then we'll do blackjack, which is pick 2 drivers each, sum the points together that they score in Monza, and see who gets closest to blackjack 21. And then 3-card poker. We'll both pick 3 drivers and see what order they finish in. If I pick 3 drivers and they are next to each other on track, that is going to beat Brian's hand if he doesn't have anybody. If we both get people that finish together, we both pick 3, it will come down to how many did we nail in the right order. Did we get a straight in our 3-card poker hand? So that's how it will go. So do you want to spin the wheel, Brian?
Spinning. It likes the high numbers, 14.
14. Well, I don't remember who went first last time in Hungary. So,
I'll let you go first.
Okay, so 14 is going to be speed. I'm going to go for Ollie Behrman.
Oh, I like that. I was thinking about a Haas as well. Speed, 14. I just can't trust the Alpine. I'm going to go Liam Lawson.
Ooh, okay.
Even though he's been showing out, I just don't know if they have the slipperiness to do what they did there. So,
okay, so your choice first for blackjack. Which driver pairing are you going to go to try and get you 21 points?
21 points. I've had a couple of these that worked out. 21 points. I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all Ferrari, Leclerc and Hamilton. It worked for me when I did this a few races ago.
It did. I think you actually got blackjack 21, didn't you, with that pairing?
I believe I did.
So I'm going to mix it up and I'm going to go George and Isaac.
All right.
I'm going to try and gamble on some high-ish points and then I can't take one of the McLarens because if either of them win, we go bust.
Yeah,
It just can't be done. So, right. So 3-card poker, 3 in a row. This one now actually becomes harder because it used to be whoever went first just said Lando, Oscar, Max.
Right.
Takes that 3. But the Red Bull isn't looking as fast there. And now I've got this kind of like Mercedes engine power unit problems in my brain. I'm 80% of the lap at full throttle. Oh no, lightnings can't strike twice and we get the engine issues. I'm going to be boring and take it. Sorry, Brian. I'm going to take Oscar, Lando, Max.
All right, just remember next time we do this, I get this one first because I think this one there's a benefit to going first. We have seen some teams that finish in the Noah's Ark approach, 2x2. And so I'm going to use that as the beginning of my effort, but I'm going to go Fernando, Lance, Yuki.
Yeah.
Yuki is going to close.
Nice. That's a good shout.
I feel like we always see those 3 kind of around each other in the last few races battling, but I'm going to put Fernando above Lance, and I'll put Yuki third.
Okay, there we are, locked and loaded. We'll find out next week.
Rob, before we close, it's been a bumper crop of conversation with an interesting race. Anything from you? I have a quick story I want to close with that's related.
No, I'm all good. You tell us the story and close us out.
I was dropping my daughter off at college, and we went to dinner on Saturday night. I found a place where it's a small town she's at. I found a place where we could get a reservation. It was my birthday on Saturday. I didn't feel like waiting 40 minutes to get in line, so we found a place we could get a reservation, and we're having a wonderful dinner. I loved it. Food was great. Company was obviously top notch, and it was fun to celebrate my birthday with my family. There were two guys at the bar. They'd both been golfing. They were drunk, and they're telling a story about, interestingly, World War II. And I could hear pieces. Again, I'm focused on my family having fun, and they were having fun themselves, right? It was a fine conversation, but they got into a debate about where a certain thing happened, where a certain treaty was signed, or however it went. And one said, well, I'm fairly certain it was in the Netherlands. And the other guy goes, no, you're wrong. It was Holland. And the two of them debated which country it was for quite some time. And I looked at my family. I go, Dutch Grand Prix time next week. And so with that, we are going to end. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Rob and I can't wait to catch you in a week's time to recap Monza. Be well, everybody.